In addition, we also have many in the waiting room as well as ones that are on Zoom participating. So thank you all for taking the time this evening. Very important information that I want to share. And I also have to do a few things before we start. Number one, this organization is transformed significantly. I can't thank enough our governing board, our board president here, Jeff Kent, sitting with us, you, all of our administrators in the room. I'll make recommendations throughout the presentation this evening. But I cannot tell you, starting 10 years ago in Geauga County, in the smallest CSC of the state of Ohio, coming off of being state associate superintendent for the Department of Education. Pretty humble at that time to understand that, you know, I had a lot of colleagues say to me, I can't believe you're going to the smallest ESC. And I also know, many of you know, I was part of Cuyahoga ESC as assistant superintendent for a decade plus. So I think when we look at, and many of you have been with our transformation, true transformation to where this ESC has come, consolidated, transition to school district into another, all of this history and all of this instrumental day-to-day work, hard work, sweat, tears, you name it, right? We talked about that today, I think, in Tina and I, about where we are and what we've accomplished. So tonight is really about a celebration. It's always about celebrations. It's year end. We're going into the next 2 years of a new plan that I've had a great deal of individuals, inclusive to ones in the room and on Zoom, that were a part of this plan, which we're very excited to communicate this evening. I think, you know, as we reflect upon our careers and we reflect upon some of the things we've done, I can't tell you enough, like this infographic is really about who we are and what we've become. I couldn't have said this 5 years ago, 7 years ago, 10 years ago, but our current awards in terms of multi-million dollars in grants. Dr. Malchowski came aboard this year as our Director of Grants, Operations and Supports. Been extremely instrumental in our success this year. And these are grants too, and things that help fund staffing at the ESC. It is in our business model, which you're going to hear a little bit about. We are a foundation of our success financially, and a lot of our fiscal team are here. Our billable services grant funds, in addition to services and support, sorry, it's a little sensitive, that are, I think, the foundation to our success is a lot of what we can bet. And number one, kids. We're in the kid business, and I can always say that we do, first and foremost, is to focus on what's best for our students at hand. And many of you in this room and on Zoom know that you impact students every day. And what we do internally here, or what we lead in this organization, specific to our goals, our achievements, everything that we put forward is the foundation we live and breathe. And we become that. This isn't a document that things that go on the shelf, but these are the kind of like successes and stories that we can tell. So we really tried to utilize this information to tell our story a little bit better. Every time we talk about communications and what we can do, this is a infographic that is updated regularly. Staff internally can't thank Brittany enough on our staff that is continually updating where we are with our grants, in addition to district serve. In terms of district serves, we do not only just serve districts Lake Geauga and Portage counties. We have 60 plus school district contracts across Northeast Ohio and across Ohio. So a lot of what we do is well beyond our tentacles of the ESCWR reach very, very far. And that's really important because ESCs in Ohio can support any school district in the state. And we've been able to do the expansion to support in the great work that we do. Some things I think too is really the focus, and I'll talk a little bit about this, is a lot of our focus is aligned with the Department of Education. And that is also some of the foundation of the department in line with what the ESCs and what they've done to support us at the state level. We have the state support team that's part of our family. We also have the iSTEM school. We're fiscal agent for numerous entities and support that many of you may not even know. And to the extent that we touch a lot of schools and students is well beyond what we do in direct services or support and programs. So we are also have this other fiscal arm that is pretty incredible. And there's many exciting things on the horizon. I can't wait to share. Here we have a board meeting this evening, but I have a lot of exciting news that's coming forward for additional partnerships in the community and business expansion. And those partnerships are the foundation also of our community that touch our schools. As we move forward, I can't thank everyone enough. Many schools lead departments, they lead schools, they lead the organization to the greatness that we are, and can't thank this team enough. These are the right-hand individuals and the foundation to support. But let's not forget to our staff that are on, our teachers especially, our classroom aides, the ones in the trenches every day supporting kids, our BCBAs, our related service. Oh, Greg Morris here too, and all he does to supervise our nurses who take care of children every day. And that's just a little touch of what we do. We can't even talk right now about Pat McKendrick and what he does to transport students in a multitude of vans, which, by the way, our board's going to buy some more vans, right, Jeff? Here soon, possibly, to transport our kiddos and expand transportation services. So I don't think that our staff, and I mentioned these things, really understand true to how far and wide this ESC impacts the general education every day, not just classroom, but in terms of businesses and what we do in operations to support kids, students, programs, community. All right, moving on. So we always recap what we've accomplished the last years. Our team meets in January of every year, and our core team really digs deep into our goals. We have goal leaders for each goal that really talks about what are those achievements, what have we accomplished, where do we want to go. And this year happens to be a conclusion of a 2-year plan and going into the next phase of the ESC. I'm going to call it excellence. We'll share, but right now I really want to talk about what we have achieved. And some of this is expansion of programs. I mean, we've done a rock star job. Literally, one of our year themes, if anyone remembers, was rock stars, is really rock starring and rocking it to really recruiting students. And DeSale is one of our, having the Hale building, which I think our governing board 5 years ago, buying a few school buildings and what we're able to do with those buildings and expanding programs. And this is just a little story I want to tell. Last evening, I was at the sale. Some of you heard this open house last night. And some years we'd have open houses and we really wouldn't have much attendance. But I know Kelsey's on. She's at Hale right now. And being with her last evening really made me smile because we had a few kids. We had school district administrators come. We had this high interest of our sale program. And I've had so many comments lately. And so I'm sure Kelsey's heard these too. It's like, wow, you've really done an amazing job. We weren't even sure some of your programs were going to exist a few years back. And to see the interest and these leaders coming in the door, from Willoughby Eastlake and Painesville, just to say the positivity of, and to see the kid with the parent, and really makes you reflect. Don't ever forget that impact. Some of us are farther removed than students, but some aren't. But really that impacts, and it really makes me smile to see the kids come through the door, especially we educate for the highest need children. Don't ever forget and underestimate the needs of these children and the amount of impact that we do every day. So program expansion is always continual. The other thing too, I have to give kudos to, and this is something that came our way, is we had a pretty large driver's ed grant. And I have to thank Bob Scott jumping in and to build our nursing program pretty readily, working with like health department when they called and needed us. But I have to say, when we have these grant opportunities, we never really say no. And I always have all of these folks and all of you too on Zoom to be there with me side by side to expand and to really impact what we want to do with families in need. As most of you know, I'm a mother of triplets that were 16 last year, 15 turning 16, getting permits, a little scary. But I have to say, the grant that we had, and that you involved in this and the impact that you continue to do, I have to say, we have offset the costs for families. That is pretty expensive. And some families that couldn't have that opportunity. And to tell a little story about that, and I think I'm getting better at telling stories because I think it helps everyone truly like have that visual of understanding of what we do. But Beth and I were just talking last week about a student that our grant had expired, but we were able to, for ESC, provide some additional dollars to us. In that, was an individual that had reached out to us to assist a student in high school that was a young mother and didn't have the money but needed a driver's license in order to go to work to help provide for her child. And we were able to do it. So right back, we did it, and we were just reflecting upon that. But that's an example, whether it's small, big, whatever it is, those are the things that I'm really proud of, and this team that we pulled together for unique things, like who would think driver's ed, right? And how the impact would be so significant. As we go into two, I want to say partners. We have expanded so many additional partners this year. This year we took on Crossroads, which all of the teaching staff and jumped into that when they called. And we get those calls often. And like I said today, even exciting for next year of those new partners, but our business partners and revamping to our business advisory. Give Bob Timmons on our team a lot of credit, and Dr. Glavin, who is our new superintendent for Auburn, really revamping and rethinking and retooling. And I think that's really important for what we're doing every single day. Moving forward. Is it locked? There we go. You might have to, if it's not moving, I'll have you do it. So this next two is goal 2, and this is really about communications. So I really have to highlight a few things about our communications and our strategies of what we do. One of those pieces is instrumental in some of our newsletters that we have done quarterly. I mean, the typical things, but I think the unique things to us is that we've really made, I think, an impact in rebranding who we are. From everything we do, our logo, letterheads, communicate, even to the point of revising our website. Brittany had a lot of fun doing that, didn't you, Brittany, this past year?
Absolutely.
And it's a large task. It is. We have a scroll of pictures continually that I'm always reminding everyone, please send our students and our programs. We have presentations that are so essential. Dr. Moran had the opportunity to present with me at the women's conference this past spring, and really sending that message of, two long-term strong leaders that we want to be in rooms with, but we want to groom the next generation of leaders. And we want those to know that we recognize what we can do to help communicate in our presentations and what we're doing to tell our story. So pretty exciting for us that we have really expanded our presentations across Ohio at state. I'm proud to say that I was I'm on a national elected board for the AESA, which is the Association for Educational Service Agencies, which I'm pretty proud of. And I'm just started my first year of a 4-year term. Those are the things of our footprint of what I want to have happen on a national perspective, local and state. And we'll continue to make movement, which you'll hear about when we talk about the next 2-year plan. Next going on is our organization's human capital growth. So every year, I think it's really important for you to know that we take time to think thoughtful to where we need positions, who and what do those look like. Restructuring, I think, is something we're very successful at because our departments and our needs shift continually. Our ESC world, I always say, is much different than it is with any other school district. And a lot of school district folks that come our way are often like, wow, this place is pretty busy and it's pretty complex. And I'll own that for the sense that we have a lot of moving parts and we're not always consistent because we have ebbs and flows, right? We have those things that come our way that we've got to be responsive immediately to. And then we also have this really craft of being skilled problem solvers, right? Raise your hand. Are we all problem solvers every day? Because we all have those issues. And I think our districts need to lean on us and we need to be the go-tos for them every single day to help them. Especially, I want to talk a little bit about the challenges we have. And a lot of this is human capital long-term. Where are we going to have sustainability for public ed? Where are we going to have long-term teachers? These are things in the field that are national issues. We have a lot of work to do to see in our recruitment of our field. And I see us taking ownership to a lot of that, especially with our higher ed partners. We need to make sure we work with all of the universities and partners across Ohio for looking at programming and recruiting and teacher programs, as well as how do we offset funds for credentialing. And I'm pretty proud. Where's Frank? Frank, raise your hand. Frank is instrumental, truly instrumental in running a computer science grant that we leveraged this year. And that really is about credentials, new credentials, to grow programs and offerings at high schools and middle schools across Ohio. And some of our programs, and this is really, really important, you might think just because where we're located, that's where our predominant footprint is. Some of these grants and things that we do are statewide, and anyone can come in other school districts to reach out for those grant funds. Because in this particular case for computer science, we have slots. So we have these slots that are pretty awesome for us to have ones that have interest. And this is impact on kids. We have credentials so that we have teachers that have better credentials and are able to instruct in new content that is not always the case in terms of that opportunity. So I really think those are important highlights to what we're talking about in terms of optimizing our organization's human capital in leveraging each other. So soon I'm going to talk about what our theme would be for next year, but I think the main piece too is we don't only support just public schools, but we do a lot with non-public and other entities that need us, okay? I've always taken the philosophy, our impact's on students and any student. And we have school choice options in Ohio. I work side by side with our superintendents and they're our primary focus. However, I'm really proud of the fact that the Cleveland Diocese came to us about a year and a half ago and asked us to lead their all-round Cleveland, the whole diocese principal conference that happens every November. I mean, they came to us. You know, we're not located in Cleveland. We're here in Northeast Ohio. We're close to it, but we're not the only ESC in the area either. We do have some competition, and I'm really proud of our staff stepping up. Deb Burke, who's over at Hale right now. Hi, Deb, and her leadership to help me to really put on one of the most amazing conferences with them last November. And we did such a great job. They asked us to continue doing this ongoing, which is pretty, you know, I think amazing for us and reflection to our hard work and efforts. And that's not just the impact. I have to thank all of our core internal team. Our central office are the ones that run this place every day, truly run this place every day, and are here in our stable. When many of us are out and about servicing schools and having numerous meetings. But it's really important. Those are just little snapshots of what we've done this past 2 years in that really embracing each other, but also enhancing our ability to deliver quality programs and services. Going in, so we're going to go into the next couple of years of what we want to happen. So FY27 is next school year. And so our new plan will be beginning for the next 2 years, starting August 1st. So as we go into the operational excellence, this is always something we take huge priority in, but our theme is systems and think. And we're breaking down the silos next year. I'm so excited about this. We're going to look at data resources to make better decisions. Right, Kelly? Absolutely. And Melissa, you two are my team on that. We are going to really look at the infrastructure internally. And we're going to look at how we partner in our departments and our external partners in a more comprehensive manner for better in sync, so that we can really be more focused, efficient, and really deliver and expansion with that innovation, okay? We are better together, and that is kind of my motto. I actually am organizing a pretty big meeting this coming Friday with some public officials and the superintendents, which I take high regard to myself to be able to leverage that and be resourceful to be able to have those community connections. But I'm not going to tell you it's not a little like nerve-wracking because I know the whole week I'm thinking about this meeting and really need to do that. That's what my job is to make sure there's successful opportunities for really crucial conversations, but to have success. But when you think about the organization structure, we've got to remember our growth strategies have to be about systems and things, and we have to be to get better together. So why I mentioned that meeting is because I had to draft an email Friday just about prep for that meeting with school districts. And I put in there a paragraph all about us and our relationship and how we've transformed that, and that we are stronger. That in this time of tax reform and property tax and all that you're hearing, we need to find a different way to fund schools. And I have to be instrumental in leading a lot of that work. And I take ownership to that. I take that as my role as a county superintendent to do that. But I tell that story again is because it's really pressing to understand that we have to be that relation, that tentacle, that octopus, like with all of the arms, to be the reach out. And I don't know if you know that about me, but that is something I lose sleep over every night. I'm constantly, my mind doesn't stop. Some of you know that, like, oh, she's gonna remind us again about that. Oh goodness, we better do that. Oh, if Jennifer's asking, we're in trouble. And it's truly because I care so deeply about this organization, and we want to validate, right, every day who we are as leaders. And I take true ownership to the growth strategy of this organization. And I do know that, future, we all can be replaced, right? We all can, we're all going to go in different directions at some point in our careers. But at point where you're at, I want you all to reflect and remember, where you're at right now and what you've done and the influence you've had, even if it's been a short amount of time, right, Bethany? Even if, think about what a great organization this is, coming to work every day. I really want you to think about that, because that's where we're going to go. Systems and think, and I'm going to keep repeating that. So everyone's going to know before they leave tonight, it's going to be about us together, and we're better together. So this is our priority 2. It's really using data structure. So I mentioned this earlier, but we have really made these assumptions. And this is what I'm trying to clarify with our communities too, what's going on politically right now. A lot of assumptions out there. I don't think we've done the best job about data and collection. And what we need to do is looking at data points, and everyone's surveyed to death. We have to find other ways to be able to gain information about needs of schools, needs of students. What are the new things? We all know AI is out there. What do we need to be doing differently? How do we think of those innovations, and how do we get the information so we can make those really crucial decisions? So I think when we have discussed this internally, we looked at some external partners like Hanover Research and a few others, that I really want to embrace some ways that we can get some stronger data for our decisions internally. And that goes into all areas of the organization. So this is a huge goal, because it's time. It's time for us to move in this direction, and it's time of us to look at those structures. When I say systems, structures, and also we're looking at internal infrastructure of efficiency of how we can do things better. Going to the next slide. We are priority 3, this is really about operational protocols, and this goes internal and external. So I think one protocol I have to talk, which ties to the goal. So each goal ties to each other, but it's about communication. So communication is really thread through all of these goals, because our external operation is the foundation of communication and strong communication and different ways to communicate. And how do we find those ways to reach those partners and really have us out there? Like it was interesting today, I got an invite in the mail, and I told Dad, like, what is this? I'm invited so much. And I was telling Tina, I'm like, all right, which one is this one? And I'm like, oh, I'm probably just on some listserv. But when Deb was looking at it, she goes, we know why you're invited to these things. And, I was never invited to these things 3, 4, 5 years ago. And now, like, we have really put ourselves on the map. But that also comes with some challenges too, which once we do, and we're a part of like things that we haven't been, creates more work, creates us being involved and attending a lot more, creates us have to increase staff so that we can spread the joy of the ESC. You like that? Spread the joy, which we're doing. And so when we talk about those operational systems, I'm really proud, just a couple new things that'll happen next school year. We really recognized that we are so special ed driven, and our department really with expansion, and we needed consistent leadership. So we have a director of pupil service coming, which is Chris Young from Painesville Schools, which we're so excited about. And we also had our former chief that is now our new treasurer, Deb Burke. And she moved into the treasurer position, which we're extremely excited about. And that left a vacancy, obviously, for her position. So we did some restructure and we were able to post for operations. And we had extremely, both, I think, Chris and having Steve Necklin, and in addition to us, is going to be enhancing both of those departments and all of you to have more support. So we have to look at that, because with that expansion and what we talked about, we've got to have people to help us. So I'm excited to have new staff like the individuals that we're just bringing on most recently. Going to the next, this is goal 2. It's high quality instructional services. We have to enhance our programs, curriculum, our internal. Sometimes, and I know many of the staff that are on Zoom tonight are really talking and thinking through, like sometimes we talk so much about our external partners and our districts that we support that often it's about our staff as well. And this goal is really about how do we create those partnerships, but we also internally are reflecting upon what our instructional practices for ourselves, our growth, our staff, and what they need. So this one's really about us reflection and us. When I mean us, ESCWR, and that reflection of what we need to be doing. And alignment of that services and partnerships. So how do we, again, systems in sync? How are we building down those silos? How are we more having our departments embedded in all the programs, knowing that? And this is awesome too. Like Diane, our assistant treasurer, recently at our strategic plan said, hey, you know what, Jennifer, we've never had an opportunity to visit the programs. She's like, we are so embraced with the staff all the time and talking with them or what have you, but we've never really visited some of the program side. I thought it was like genius, like, oh my gosh, yes, we need an opportunity for our staff. So you really have an understanding. I mean, to go to Gateway School, and Bruce and Nancy are in the room from Gateway, and I think Aaron joined and a few others from Gateway, but how proud are we of that school that really does so much for students every day and their high need of their emotions and their well-being. But how do we know, like for Gateway, and them to connect to all of our staff to understand the challenges, but also the successes and the smiles, and to know what we're doing for real high need students every day. So that's our instructional services is our internal goal. And then we go to, I don't know why it's not, Brittany, we got to get a new clicker. Now it's flip back. All right, there we go. Provide all schools and community partners with cost-effective services. This is a consistent goal. We use this every single year. This is probably going into my 6th, 7th year that we've always had a goal regarding fiscal management. Pretty proud. If I look back and I reflect, and many of you hear this from me, to 10 years ago, taking 2 ESCs that were not financially stable at the time to where they are today is pretty amazing. Couldn't have done it without all the support in the room and the individuals, but this has to be a consistent goal, because this is something that we have to live and breathe every day in our budgets, our fiscal team managing, but we're not bringing in dollars if we're not getting district contracts, additional services, students in our programs. That impacts our fiscal stability. So this is growth and cost efficiency and maintaining. My goal is, as I always said this, is I'd like to at least be $500,000 annually, right? Everyone hears me say that. So we're not deficit spending. We're not going into the general fund to offset costs significantly. And we've been able to do that for a multitude of years. And I'm pretty proud of that. But that is all of the work every day that all of us are doing. And continually, I will say continually, really, it's about our partners. And new things are coming our way every single time because of those relationships. And relationships are a foundation to these communities and partners and our cost stability. Going into our additional priority 2 on goal 3, we have this community class programs and services, leveraging resources. So we all do this every day. How are we going to, and we have these questions. And I don't know if Jessica's on too, but I do want to recognize Jessica on our fiscal team that continually manages our budgets. I'm always asking questions or texting our billable, daily rates, to working with me to manage those budgets, and to make sure staff costs are covered. As we increase, as you just heard me say, increasing staff, well, the money's got to come from somewhere. And do we have those funds to make sure, or are they spread through cost of programs, which is really important. We become really creative. I would say we're pretty creative in our finances, and it's pretty awesome. But we really want to this year, and I'm going to start this, I'll be in the rears, an annual report. So I'd like to be able to publicize a huge, success. And some of the infographics that you saw in the beginning, we would do on an annual report. Probably release time, we're thinking like September and October. So that would be from the prior fiscal year that we would be able to share some success. We work with the Impact Group, who's our communications support and arm. I couldn't do life without them, or they've helped rebrand us. But they'll be working with me on this so we can release something. And I think it's important that we've got to be able to demonstrate for our schools all the wonderful things we've been able to do annually. And this is priority 3, align operational systems and with our high quality efficiencies. But this also goes into when I actually thought of this theme, and I stole it from AESA, which is our educational agency, that's our national, their summer conference assistance thing. And it had every single block below it was everything I'm talking tonight about for the next 2 years. How we break down those silos. How do we also look at those efficiencies? How do we look at community? And how do we be more in sync in a general, day to day? And departments are really important because we've expanded so rapidly. And we do have these external partners, SST, and how do we do more collaboration, be more engaged with each other? Because everyone brings something to the table and we need to utilize each other to the full advantage. So this one's really about that forecasting future, but we really need to analyze our programs and make sure, especially when we're leveraging those fiscal resources. Right, Betty Jo? So as I conclude, I cannot ever thank these individuals enough. As I said, Jeff Kend is in the room. He's been our board president for many years, and I can't thank Jeff enough for his support. And our board members, even some that go back to the JAGA days with me a long time ago, that I still, it's hard to believe it's been a decade. But Tim Snyder, our vice president, Ken Burnett, Kenny Cahill, Dr. Susan Collada, Tom Hack, Marilyn Persick, Steve Remus, Eric Walter, are the foundation to what we do every day and the support they offer to us. And of course, I couldn't be remiss without thanking Deb Burke and everything she has done for us. She's been a staple here for about 15 years with mainly Lake ESC, but then I brought Jago along, and we've been working together for a long time. I also want to thank Greg Slemons, our treasurer that just retired. Greg has been a partner with me, and couldn't have done many of the things without him as well, and we wish him well. But as we go into the next couple of years, it's hard to, we're ending another school year. It's just, this year probably by far went the quickest that I've ever had a full year go. But I can't tell you enough, but as we go into the systems and think, aligning with each other, working together more collaboratively, all of the things I've communicated, I'm really excited. And I'm so excited for the relationships we've built. Together, we are stronger. Together, we are better. Thank you all for being here, and I appreciate all your support, what you do for kids every day. Okay? Thank you, everybody. Everyone on Zoom. Have a wonderful evening. Good luck with the rest of the school year.